Developed by Technos Japan in 1989, River City Ransom, or Downtown Nekestu Monogatari, was the fifth game of the studio's flagship Kunio-kun series, and the third such title to be ported to the NES for Western audiences, after Renegade and Super Dodgeball. In it, players take the roles of Alex and Ryan, aka Kunio and rival Ricky, to help rescue Ryan's girlfriend from Slick, or Simon. Along the way, players battle a number of gang members, mini-bosses, and finally Slick himself. The game's genre exists in a world almost its own, containing elements of open-world play, beat-em-up combat, RPG stat growth, and shopping, with some exploration and action thrown in for good measure. 20 years later, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, released, drawing heavily from River City Ransom's mechanical groundwork, but largely, it's been elements of River City Ransom and not the game's combined effort that have been emulated in future titles. A tremendous amount of effort went into the localization of River City Ransom by American Technos. Sprites were altered. Instead of uniforms, they went to casual clothes. The names, dialogue text, sign sprites were all altered. And even some background elements were made to look at least slightly more Western than the distinctively Japanese aesthetic of the original. Now, Technos went defunct in 1996, but even that couldn't stop the franchise. Former developers acquired the assets and made more games through the early part of the 21st century as Million Co., until about summer 2015, when the full range of IPs were acquired by Arc System Works, who now operate the Technos by Arc System Works range. Nearly 30 years later, the Kunio-kun series of games is still going strong. River City Sports Challenge All-Star Special was released in October of 2015 in the US. Now, River City Ransom is available on the 3DS and the Wii Virtual Consoles, which both have the distinct advantage of getting you save features, rather than the brutally long passwords of the original. It might set you back a few dollars more if you want to find a copy for the original NES, but thankfully, a smile is always free. Thoughts?
Well, a smile is always free, but pepper beef, now that's going to cost you about $6.95.
$5.95.
$5.95, and it's going to be worth every penny.
And every point of hit points. And I know I had a good laugh with it at the end of the last video that we did for River City Ransom, but the sauna is huge. I mean, the ability to build up your willpower and kind of refresh your life right where you're farming all that, money at the end. That place is critical.
Well, I mean, we kept trying to kill ourselves to get all of our health back, and we would go through like 3 would-be deaths because of our willpower.
Yeah, no, it's tremendous having that extra reservoir of life, and now that's a good stand-in. But obviously, if you're dealing with more difficult, like if you're playing the advanced difficulty, buying karma jolts from the pharmacy, really farming up your defense and your strength, and not just your, like the kick power, like we did with the Texas boots, or we settled for army boots, but same idea.
I mean, once you get enough food items, though, like the army boots really all you need. It maxed out our stat for a kick, or just about, anyways.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes the thing, we never really paid much attention to the stats of the game back when, no one would know this because they don't know us personally, but we've played this game probably like once or twice every year, almost since I've known.
Oh yeah.
We've known each other.
Many
times. This is just one of our favorite co-op games, just to get together and hang out and just say, you want to play a game? Yeah. What do we play? River City Ransom.
It has a little of everything, right? It's got some of these RPG elements because you can build up stuff over time. It's got the beat 'em up elements, so you kind of get the immediate satisfaction, especially like in the early gangs were so easy to knock out. It has the variety of levels. It has, all the different gangs you can fight, even though they all fight the same way. They've got different weapons. They're in different places.
The squids.
the vacant third wheel factory. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to this, and even though the core premise is kind of simple, start at point A, end up at point B, beat up everyone along the way, and make some cash while doing it. It's a deep game for an NES game.
And that's it harks back to things I've been saying in other reviews that we've done. It's just a great example of not having a lot there physically, but being able to do so much with what you have.
Yeah, it's getting the most out of
your medium or your equipment. It's the same reason that I still listen to like NES Mega Man music, probably more than anything else, just because you have like 4 or 5 channels for sound. And well, look at what they did with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's that. Yeah. And now for the music case, and the music was pretty good in this too.
I still love the first theme.
Oh yeah. It's a matter of if you're working with that limited instrument set, and it's the same thing that makes like the Star Wars theme or the Indiana Jones theme or some of these like memorable movie scores stand out to you. It's that melody. It's that punch. You can immediately, because when you're humming or singing along or remembering it, you're hearing that single tone version of it in your head. So when you're thinking Indiana Jones in your head, it's da 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 da, right? It's that tonal register, and you pick that up immediately. For some of these NES titles that have such memorable scores, like, for River City Ransom, it's the same thing. You're remembering that melodic instrument because it has a lot of weight. It's the majority of the sound you're hearing, and they really get the most out of that limited instrument set. One triangle, one square, one, noise, DC, like very limited channels that you're working with sound-wise. But absolutely getting the most out of it.
Yeah.
This was a big credit to American Technos. Like I said, this is a game that had a lot of localization.
Now, when you say, because you mentioned like the uniform changes, what was it, like different school uniforms they had, or
so the localization in this game, and I mentioned the American Technos thing. There was a lot. So the school uniform thing, they were designed to look like they were in like Japanese school uniforms. They're like full coats and slacks kind of thing. And so they took all the sprites and they modified them to be like T-shirts and jeans, again, to kind of match that Western audience. The backdrops, they also like changed the look of the buildings and kind of the city skyline style to be more Western. What else did they do? The mailboxes. So the mailboxes even got changed from like Eastern style mailboxes to like a blue box that says U.S. Mail.
Box,
So that got changed. Like little details like that. They really went a long way to change the feel of the game. And there's places where you can tell, like especially the mailbox, like a lot of detail came out of it. So it may not have been as good like an artist doing, that as it was the original.
Well, sure, but again, you work with the medium you're given, with the material you're given.
Right. And the end result is it made it feel like a Western game.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that it was like such a heavily influenced by like a, Japanese style game, it was easy to fall into the trappings of these are two Western kids, just going on, doing their thing. And
I would have questioned it one time, and that's with the sauna. Because clearly it's supposed to be a bathhouse.
Right. Pop sauna is very much like an attempt at a kind of a workaround that isn't really effective. Sure. And
But that's the one. That's sort of the exception that proves the rule that they were successful. That they did a great job at making it, appeal to the Western demographic.
And sure, I mean, you had Merv's Burger, you had Hank's Chicken Shack, you had, the CD place, the
for crap's
toy
sake,
store.
You have the Texas boots as the ultimate kick attack.
The tea bag. I mean, you'd say of all these different stores that you don't have any difficulty imagining these stores existing in either place, right? So it's, it's kind of almost a credit to, wow, are we really that similar?
Yeah.
Like from place to place, our similarities much more than our differences, but also that it felt like you were in this believable kind of American style, two towns, Springfield, Shelbyville sort of thing. Which is, more power to him, especially like going to the gangs, like the Mob, the Internationals, the Squids, the Jocks, and always the names kind of matching along with that. Mm-hmm. Boris with the Internationals and Ivan's their leader, or like the Mob, with like Vito, or the generic dudes just having like generic name, just a lot of effort into making it feel cohesive. Yeah. Which it would have been real easy to phone that in, right? It would have been real easy to be like, well, it's just a bunch of enemies. Who cares what they look like? Because for this audience, they're not thinking of it as, are they really thinking of it as like rival street gangs, but they did.
But they put in the effort, and it was noticed and appreciated, certainly by us. I mean, we played this game enough freaking times.
And they all went on to become honor students. That's an important caveat. Don't forget.
I can't believe that's...
It's one thing to say that, like, oh, you rescued Ryan's girlfriend, Cindy, in time to finish her shopping. Right. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, cute, adorable.
And then all the gangs
go on to be honor students. Yeah, that's...
Everyone. That's like every student.
The question is, how are they becoming honor students?
I don't know.
Are they like, is this they walk into school carrying, bats and brass knuckles and rocks and say like, hey, we want to be honor students, and you're poor, Mr. Riley in shop class? Okay, you're honor students.
I have to imagine that it's one of those things where, like, especially in the case of Benny and Clyde, where
those two got set straight.
They get their ass whooped like dozens of times by these two punk kids. It's like, you know what? Maybe we're not in the right path.
And I will never apologize for playing games and having fun, but more power to you if you sat through all of episode 4 and watched us and grind out Benny and Clyde to get the $50 to go buy the army boots in the first place. But that's what River City Ransom boils down to is...
Yeah. I mean, if you're better than we are, which is not hard to do,
sure,
you can go through the game like with base stats and be fine if you're used to all the mechanics of the game. I didn't like sit down and practice this one. Right. This is just something that we just pick up and go, and we play it as we do.
Which is nice. It's right at that difficulty level for us where we can sit down, we play it. It's a challenge. There's a way to level the playing field for us, which is farming up our stats a little more, then going in and fighting it. So, that's the great equalizer in this game is you could try to go through and do like a 15 all stat run on like advanced mode. And I'm sure there are people who have done it. Or you can do... well, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to do an acro circus run, and I'm going to try to beat the Dragon Twins using nothing but flipping around. Yeah. Or I'm going to Javelin Man, and I want to pick one of them up and throw him into the other. Well,
it's one of those things that really makes me appreciate that they've put so many genres into one game, and I really do appreciate the RPG elements, because what that eventually translates to is... you can make builds for your character. Right. You can say, I want to focus in weaponry, which is kind of what I wanted to do at the start of the game, but as we went along, it just wasn't working out for me.
And if you don't have those RPG elements, this is just an open-world Double Dragon with fewer attacks.
Sure.
Right? In the Double Dragon, you had, like, the flips and this, that, and the other, and it felt like there were more... Another Technos title. It felt like there were more things you could do in that game, but in this game, because of how open the world was, and that you could go down different, like... tech trees, as it were, with the books, or different stat builds, or buy different items, and all that kind of adds up to making the game feel much, much bigger.
Yeah,
and it doesn't take a lot to do to make that work.
I mean, you remove that and take a look at all the things that it affects. Like, you are now just punching everything, or you pick up a weapon whenever you can because it's better than punching. Every shop you go to is only there to recover your HP.
And that's a huge one, right? Because there's such a wide variety of shops in this game, and they each give you a little more flavor of the town.
Like a cookie will give you 3 HP and willpower, but steak will give you HP and strength, or what have you.
And it makes that part of the town feel just as alive as like when you're walking through Sticksville or the Burbs or the Bacon Factory.
Oh, I'm in this town. That means I can get this food that I've really been waiting just for all my money for, and just things like that.
Yeah, and again, I guess it kind of reinforces that high school experience of, hey, I've got pocket change. I'm going to go buy a burger from Merv's or something.
Or like my high school, it was like, well. Do we want to go to this shopping center for Pizza Hut or the other shopping center for whatever? It was always just something like that.
Yeah, same idea. And it reinforces what you're already doing. It makes the game feel bigger, more alive, and for what was really something that could have already been behind the scenes, right? You know how much damage a kick does, how much damage a punch does. These agility, all these things are natural, like numerics that exist in the system. Mm-hmm. You expose them to the front end, you give them some names, you let the player increase them by doing things in game, almost as like a self-driving reward. All of a sudden, you've turned a beat 'em up into an RPG.
Exactly.
And it's amazing how, and a lot of games do this, right? They have one aesthetic, like one mechanical thing that they're after. Like, I am a shooter, and then you go, well, okay, shooters are all fine and good, but why don't we add this other thing onto it? And all of a sudden the game, like, it's a transcendent thing. You grab a second genre. Yeah And
which is great for me because I love a shooter where I don't have to worry about aiming as much.
Oh yeah. And God bless the people at Borderlands wasn't Gearbox. Yeah, just taking a game that's in one world and adding another world to it is always like there's an opportunity for growth there. And I'm always a fan to hear of like a game with, and it's one thing to say like, yeah, it's got roguelike elements or it's this or that, but really it's finding marriages of game mechanics that are either unexplored and interesting and by their nature novel because we haven't seen them before, or more importantly ones that actually have something there. There's something intrinsic to combine these things that we didn't think about before, and it's only after the fact.
An RPG where you have to dodge attacks via a shoot 'em up style.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, that's huge. Undertale's been awesome in demonstrating, like, hey, take disparate styles of gameplay and you can get something you didn't necessarily expect to get out of it, because it's part Earthbound, part shmup, and it's got some other things going for it too.
Well, it's great because it ends up making all these things that you didn't know you wanted.
Right.
It's just, they're all just really pleasant, wonderful surprises, and it's amazing what you can do when you get creative and just, like you said, take two things and mash them together.
And that creativity expands, because, Technos doesn't just make River City Ransom, right? They made Super Dodgeball before this, which was the same characters in a competitive dodgeball game. They had Nintendo World Cup later on, which is the same characters doing soccer, and it's different abilities, it's a kind of a different world. It's taking one thing and kind of tacking another thing on it and, watch the magic happen. And I think that's kind of one of the, I guess legacy is the right word now, because Technos isn't around anymore, sadly. Bless the people at Arc System Works. They really seem like they're committed to doing something with this, this world setting and these characters and kind of reviving what Technos had started. They don't even call it like Arc System Works, Kunio-kun, whatever. It's called, if you go to their site, it actually says
River City Ransom
the Technos by Arc System Works.
Yeah.
They don't even have to, but they're keeping that name. That they understand like the weight of that brand and that identity and what they had built at Technos. With those
it wouldn't be the same at all if it wasn't Technos.
Yeah.
It's just like you said, it's the identity. It's, I don't know, it's like making a Final Fantasy game but not including the word square involved. Just about.
Yeah, can be bizarre. River City Ransom.
Yeah, there is they were successfully greenlit on Steam.
Yeah.
To do River City Ransom Underground.
Okay, right. We had been talking about that earlier with the weird fire mechanic on the boss or whatever.
Well, there's a lot of things, and I'm a little worried that because a lot of the sort of charm of the game came from how simple it was in terms of the interactions between characters. Like, there was just your interactions with characters, just the little text scroll on the bottom. It was like, oh no, not these guys again.
Mystery, dude.
and little things like that. And the story was it was okay. Your girlfriend's been kidnapped. Go get her. That was it for the narrative.
And I may have botched this during the video. It's Ryan's girlfriend that gets captured. And I think that's because Alex is kind of the quote-unquote good guy of the series. He's the main protagonist. So he's the guy
happy to help out a buddy.
So he's the one who's willing to help his otherwise rival because this other meaner dude is doing what he's doing, which I think was their way of kind of reinforcing, like, hey, Alex is the good guy. Ryan may be the rival, but he's kind of like the friendly rival style. It kind of reinforced their particular character arcs.
Yeah, but I look at all of the information that's out in the sequel right now, and of course, this is all just prior to release thought.
Sure. Speculation.
Speculation. You really can't take any of it seriously, but I really do worry that they're sort of. It's almost, to me, it's like comparing Mega Man to Mighty Number 9. It's a spiritual successor, but I wouldn't call it another entry in the series.
Right. Yeah, it's there's definitely examples where, and it's challenging, admittedly, to decide where the line is drawn. Are you making a love letter to a previous game?
Right.
Are you saying that game was somehow incomplete, so we're going to change it up and do something to it? And you're always going to have fans of like one specific style of gameplay who feel let down that it went a different direction, or people who you risk dividing your base, and it's tricky. It's a hard line to walk. I don't envy anyone that has to do it. I wish them all the best, and I certainly hope it's a terrific title, but I'm kind of with you. I watched the promos for it, and I worry. And you worry because, not necessarily because you love River City Ransom so much and you can't believe they would do something to this, right? It's their title. It's theirs to do with what they'll do.
And that would be forming an opinion of a game before it's even released. And you can't do that.
Yeah. It's that you've seen what they did. You've seen the success it had, and you've identified what made the title so endearing. And you worry they're walking away from that particular thing. And in River City Ransom's case, it's just how elegant something as simple as being high schoolers wailing on other high schoolers to grab pocket change, grab some grub, hang out for a while, and go rescue somebody can be. And even the rescue, like in so many of these NES games, is really unnecessary. The story could have been like Slick said something, or Slick challenged you, or Ricky, got beat up by Slick, so we went to Alex for help, and the two of them were going to go wail on Slick to revenge or whatever,
Right.
It was just kind of a thing to be a thing there, but the simplicity of what made River City Ransom great it would be a real shame to see that squandered or thrown aside with some sort of like fantastical elements, because part of the joy of it is a game that is truly mundane. The power-ups are food. The items are CDs or toys or shoes.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, there's no, like... And that was another thing. They sort of, like, looking at the game, it was like... It took, like, real-world things, and then they just added Street Fighter to it with, like, Hadouken fireballs and, like, whirling dragon kicks and things like that. It made it, like... It made it sort of anime, and I don't mind that if a game is that to begin with. But the inclusion of that, where it wasn't necessary and wasn't even a part of the mythos of the game,
right?
This is just one of the concerns I had, where it was just sort of taking an endearing, charming little game where you beat everyone up for their lunch money and just making it to something.
We're off. You know, it's a radically different topic, but it's one of my favorite go-tos. The Brave Little Toaster. Adorable John Lovitz movie, right? It's the story about, like, the toaster and the blanket and the vacuum cleaner, and they've got to go find the kid who left their house and now he's living in the big city.
Was John Lovitz the radio?
No. Yes, John Lovitz was the radio. I know he was involved, I think, in, like, the writing for it. But yeah, so this really sweet little charming thing. You know what the sequel to that was? It was The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars.
Brave Little Toaster Jumps the Shark.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those moments where you're just like, everything that made you endearing and adorable, and honestly at times very melancholy, because it channeled our inner feelings about growing up and understanding that you leave things behind, and you know, their memories imprinted on even simple things and simple concepts. And then it's just off in another universe on its own entirely, and you lose that humility that comes from being able to do something beautiful with a very simple subject matter.
Right.
And that is, to me, what makes River City Ransom great. It's a beat-em-up RPG that doesn't need to have big, flashy elements to work. It doesn't need to have a truly grandiose and epic storyline. It doesn't need to have...
just fun.
Yeah.
It's just, here's our idea. Here's our cohesive idea, though it might be simple. It's enjoyable.
Right.
And it's fun, and everyone loves it, and... Smiles are free, and Merv's Burger Shack.
There are only two people I know who don't love it, and we took $2.50 from them over and over and over and over again.
Oh, man. I kind of just want to put that clip at the end of every one of our videos now.
Benny Hill people are going to get on my case, but yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Probably. Furiosa!
Yeah, so thank you so much for watching River City Ransom. Hope you
this one was
enjoyed.
really fun for us to do. I mean, we're going to play it again at some point anyways. And,
oh, yeah?
You know, and maybe we'll live stream it sometime.
Yeah, maybe we'll try, we'll actually really test ourselves and do, like, the advanced version or something. Go for broke.
Or something, you know.
But until then, if you have any questions, you want to say anything about River City Ransom, you just want to discuss it, comments are below. Please feel free to reach out to us.
Likewise, if you want to discuss the upcoming... well, I guess you can call it a sequel or spiritual successor.
Sure.
You know, thoughts, concerns you might have, whether you disagree with us, whether we're just being dumb and old fogey about it. Let us know.
Get off my lawn.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.